things that we've been through. Life is better with you.
Hey guys, I'm Brian.
And I'm Allison.
And this is
Our Life in Front of the Bleachers.
We're very, very fortunate to have some good friends on with us this week. And we've known them for going on 28 years, probably. I'm not real good with math, but almost 30. We'll round it up, right? So we can round it up to 30. So we've known each other for that long, and 3 decades of football and sports. And, you know, we both went to the same college. He's significantly older than I am, though. I mean, I'm talking decades older than I am.
There you
But no, I mean, we've known each other for a long time, and we've shared some similar stories, but there's some funny ones and certainly some ones of faith that we'd love for them to be able to share and be able to talk about, you know, the perils of coaching, but also the great things that have been provided to us because of that. But we'd like to introduce Matt and Amanda Versluis, and they are currently in a different state. But yeah, they've been great friends, and we're excited to have them on. So thanks for being on, guys. We appreciate it.
No, we appreciate being on here. It's been awesome.
Yeah, we've had a good time doing it, and it's mostly for us. We don't care a lot of times how many people are watching or who's watching, but it's a great way for us to do some recollections of the past and try to, you know, rekindle some of those spirits of things lost, because it's a different day and age now, and I know you guys can attest to it. And what do you think? If you look back that far, 3 decades, what are some of the biggest differences that you, Matt, that you can go ahead and tell with the kids, you know, technology, obviously, even coaches? What's the differences that you see in that time?
You know, Brian, I think a lot of coaches have the same saying. I don't think kids are the problems. Parents, the lack of parenting with the parents become problems. Now, in saying that, you got parents watching. I'm not talking about every parent, but back, like, you're right. This is my 32nd year. So you go back to the beginning of that, which was what, the early 90s. Parents were more into making sure you made their kid behave. You tried to help turn them into a man, you know, instilled some good behaviors, some self-esteem, you know, all those kind of things you try to do as a coach. And you didn't have to be quite as careful as you are now, you know, especially me. I don't mix my words up too good. They kind of come out harsh or hard, but that's a whole nother aspect too. But you know,
I didn't help you. I didn't help you sometimes. I remember way back when, and
we can get into that one now.
When I was working with you that one time, I was a fiery youngin'. I think I was like 25, and we were playing this team that was ranked really high in the state, and we jumped on them early, had a good old time, and then they decided they were going to run the score up on us, and I didn't think too kindly of that. So I said, "Hey, I ain't shaking their hands, and you know, I'm just an arrogant turkey turd of young descent, and you jumped in too. You remember anything about that one?"
I think I do. I think I do. You said something through the headphones, and this was so what did way I remember it, they threw a pass. They were up by at least 3 or 4 touchdowns, and we had a young team. They threw an out route, and it was, you know, 20 yards or whatever, and they had beat us up pretty good. They were better than we were. But our kids, as you and me talking on the headphones, we don't even understand, you know, how to take a loss. We're down, tucked our tails, and you know, you were fired up, no doubt about it. And you got me fired up. So we're about halfway through the 4th quarter, and you and me just, you know, started feeding off each other, and we got kind of sideways. And we didn't go shake their hands. We told the kids to go to the end zone. And the leader of the school came to us and asked us to go shake their hands, and we decided not to. And I don't know if you remember this one, but a great family that was at that school, the Dunlap family. You remember Ian, man, just a great kid. And he stood up and he told our principal, he said, "Coach V said we're not going to shake their hands, and we ain't going to shake their hands." And that's when the crap hit the fan. But anyway, But anyway, yeah, and that was because of Brian Davis.
I was trying to take a little part of it, but not the whole thing, but I'll take it. It's so long ago. We're all,
We were what? We couldn't have been more than 25, 26 years old.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, you probably in your late 20s and I was in my mid 20s. So yeah, that's probably about right. So yeah, I recall those times, and I know Allison recalls them too, because those were times life was simple. It was hard, but we didn't know it was real hard. We didn't get paid
No.
much money. We certainly didn't get paid anything like we do now. But
And we were in the mountains and there really wasn't anything to do. And I mean, I remember coming out to the cabin the first time and we were trying to find it in the dark. And I don't know, Brian. And we backed down your driveway the whole way over the creek and everything just so we could get out quickly if it wasn't your place.
it might be a moonshiner's cabin or
I
something.
know,
Roll
know
up
what
on
we were doing.
We have always said if there was one place we'd move back to, it's that cabin.
I love that cabin.
it. Yeah,
It was
awesome.
beautiful.
That was one of the perks of being at Patrick County, being in that cabin.
Yeah. No doubt, no doubt. So, well, Amanda, your life as a coach's wife hadn't been easy. So, what do you recall differently? And I didn't mean to cut Matt off from before, so I didn't mean to cut you through, but you made my memory go, and I'll let you come back and finish your thought. But let's go to Amanda. Amanda, what's been the differences that you've seen over 30 years?
I guess just the focus that programs take, like right now, with the NIL that Georgia has, like I know that's going to drastically change these programs for these kids. And I worry that these kids don't understand the full depth of what's involved and what that could mean. And they're just young. I don't think they have the communication skills to navigate all that stuff. And unfortunately, it might be enticing to look at that money and risk hurting themselves. So over time, I could say, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing right now is the NIL that Georgia's put into play. But I've loved the moves that we've had. I mean, truly every move that we've had, God has handled everything, like selling of our houses within a week, within a couple of days, finding us another house, just making everything work out. Even situations where we've had to move and weren't expecting to, God turned that into something amazing that Matt's going to share a little bit later. But that's been a blessing to see that and to have my own boys a part of that, our three boys, just be a part of that. They've loved being on the football field, in the weight rooms, wherever he's at.
How is that when you come home and they've not seen eye to eye at practice?
We have three very different children. So, Cody is the oldest, so he was in the weight room with Dad. We've always joked that Cody knew how to bench press at 2 because Matt had a PVC pipe that he would put him on when he was at Patrick County. So he loved it and he was all about it. And then Caden is our middle one, who was very analytical. He and Matt are a little bit oil and water.
You saying I'm not analytical?
No, Caden's just very, he gets it all. Like Caden, I can remember him being 8 years old playing peewee football, and he was the quarterback, and he would move an 8-year-old lineman to the right spot because he wasn't lined up right. And Caden wasn't fixing to call that play unless he was where he needed to be. And so then Cameron, who was just kind of like, he's just watching the butterflies, like playing peewee football. He just didn't have that. So it got difficult. Like, Cody took the feedback well. Caden wanted to argue his point, and Caden, even when Matt wasn't his position or head coach, he had some words one time with the head coach and said, "I'm out," and he took off to the locker room because it was black and white in his mind, and that was the way it was going to be.
Was that Brian Davis's fault too? I got to figure it out.
No, I'm gonna throw him under the bus. This with Richie Marsh. So we can talk about him later.
Brian, I don't know if you've seen a difference in this, but the way you can even have relationships with kids now. Man, I remember, kids wanting to be with you and cooking for them, having stuff at the school and all that. Now they have their own lives and but we demand so much time from them too. And I know you do the same thing. I mean, football is January to December. If you're going to be any good at it, you got to do it year round. And it's not fair to the kid. I don't think it ever has been. It's in the high school, age of it. But now kids, for whatever reason, and maybe I'm just not that good at the relationship thing anymore, but they just don't want to be that big a part of a program to where that relationship can really build. I don't know if that makes any sense. Do you
It
see that?
does, because we've had, like, we were talking about this. We've had where they were just done with the season and we're still in playoffs trying to, and they're like,
yeah.
we want to kind of get on
With something
with
else.
something else.
Girls, the
And-
fumes
and
will
I-
get you. Just
yeah.
them fumes.
I get it, but so I go back to now, let's go back to the parent part of that. So like at the school I'm at now, and I'm not coaching anymore, but they had kids that didn't come to Labor Day practice, right? They were going to do their own thing. Well, they knew that they had practice, but they're not coming because they got a family deal or they got this or they got that. I'm like, that just baffles me, but that's parents, right? I mean, parents are making those decisions for kids. Well, back 30 years ago or whatever, you're going, if you're the parent, you're going to practice, you made a commitment.
Well, I have to say that this is the best job I've ever had where I am currently. So we do have much more of an all-in approach than I've probably ever witnessed. So, it's kind of kept a little bit of youth in me a little bit and given me a little bit more longevity because of what the kids are doing. Maybe we're the anomaly. Maybe it's just not like that everywhere anymore. But we are very fortunate.
And not to interrupt you, but you said program,
Mm.
right? So if you've got a program going, most of the time the parents are bought in, the kids are bought in, that's going to happen. If you haven't built a program, if it's just a football team, you've got issues.
Yeah.
Well, the places that we've been and taken over, didn't have a huge history of success, at least recently before we got there. That's the only job I could get anyway, is the one that nobody else wanted. So when you get there, the expectations are pretty low. And you just set a foundation with those kids that are there and will, do what they're supposed to do. And usually success follows. And then that just kind of sets the precedent for everybody else. But I don't know that I could go into a situation where the expectations are beyond what's reality. I couldn't stay there long. I've been there. I've created it sometimes, and then the expectations get too high. But I know, what's the biggest difference you see between the states? You've coached in multiple states, and what do you see as the biggest difference there being in Georgia versus where you were in Virginia and other parts?
I'm going to try to say this politically correct. The competition, let me say this, where I've been. So like the coast of Virginia, right? And the Richmond areas and the DCs, you've got some good football, great football, right? Then the areas we were, it wasn't quite as good, right? You have those pockets in Georgia where the football is not that good, but I've said what I've said about the parents and the kids not committing, but as a whole in the state of Georgia, it is a huge deal. Football is a big deal. And this, I guess Georgia's probably ranked third or fourth in the state with high school kids. Great talent here, great coaching. You just alluded to the pay. We've got multiple coaches, multiple head coaches, way over $100,000 as a head coach, and they're not teaching anything. They're in the weight room a couple of periods, or they're the assistant AD, and they give them the ability to just 100% coach football, and which goes back to a program. They can spend that time, if they do it the right way, building relationships with those kids. But the pay is a big deal. The commitment is huge, and the coaching. I want to be careful how I say that, but there's some very good coaching in Georgia. I'll leave it at that. But unbelievable athletes, right? And I'm not taking away from Virginia, the coast of Virginia, and like I said, Richmond, D.C. area, they've got, and there's pockets of people that up there, that they got great talent. But as a whole, I would say the pay, we'll go back to 05. So we moved to Georgia in 05, right? I was a DC, right? I was a defensive coordinator at school and teaching. You were teaching with a master's degree. And I'm going to throw numbers out. As teachers, I don't think it's a big deal. And I could care less what it is. But I think what our W-2 is like 76,000 with the two of us. We go down to Georgia and I'm teaching. They give us 11-month contract plus your stipend. And I'm also extended day. Instead of a planning period, they put you in the weight room, right? So instead of making $2,200 coaching, I'm making like 18,000. So, just the coaching, and then even her deal with her master's degree. Georgia does a great job with the pay increases there. But I know that's a long answer.
Well, I mean, you feel like your time's being compensated, at least better.
It is, and you know this because I know you do it the right way. We did. I mean, last place I was at, wow, we were spending after 3:00. You're spending 40 hours a week after 3. You know how that works, between watching film and doing practice and Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm not complaining, but you got to do that to win, So, Bill Belichick's got a great saying, there's pain in preparation, there's pain in losing. You pick which pain you want. Right. So anyway.
Well, I mean, that preparation for us back in the day revolved around VHS tapes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
having to go exchange videos and rewind and fast forward. Most of these young coaches, they don't understand all the time that we had to put in just because of the technology, but we did it because that was what preceded us. That's what we thought. And obviously, me being the son of a college coach, this is what you're supposed to do, and you push no matter what, and because you have enough pride to do that.
Right,
And you want to give your kids every opportunity. If we could take, the knowledge that we have today and go back to where we were 30 years ago, we might have won state championships even with some
I might have won at least 2 or 3 more games.
That's what I was thinking. I said maybe coaching's only worth 1 or 2 because we weren't extremely talented back then. So, but you're right. Those are some fun places to live. Life was simple, and we look back on it like, wow, we had very little to worry about. We just enjoyed ourselves. We put a lot of stress on ourselves, but it wasn't because of the job. The expectations were low, and we were superseding those expectations for sure. But let's go to the moving process, because that moving process, as you've alluded to,
she could take over on that one.
Well, yeah, she said they were good.
I think you guys always, like, when I listen to you guys always took chances buying houses, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do that.
Everybody
You
says,
guys
how do you do that?
it always worked, and I'm
did.
oh my gosh.
Well, go ahead.
So yeah, our moves were the biggest one was moving from Virginia, because that one was the biggest one, and we've talked about that, like, my dad had just passed away before that, or like right at a year, and his goal was he was fixing to retire. He was going to watch Cody. Like, Cody was the only grandchild, and I had told Matt after that, that was part of God's plan for us, because I couldn't have taken Cody away from my dad, to spend time fishing and him watching him while we were at work. So we knew that even that was part of the plan. And but our moves, like finding houses, even finding rental houses, has always worked out for us.
Well, why do we say it's always worked out?
Because we've just put, this is our mission, being a part of a football team and doing it the right way to build godly men. That's what we committed to in 05 when we first left to go coach with the Marsh family. And our kids grew up, they joked, our boys joked that for the first few years we were in Thomasville, they thought they were related to the Marshes because we were over at each other's houses all the time. They thought we were having happy parties, and it was them watching football film, and we needed as wives to have the kids together. So they thought they were related to us, but
So to put it in perspective, Allison, you probably already know this, but we've bought 5 homes and moved 10 times, right? In 32 years. We just moved here 2 years ago. And we're hoping, we always say this, we hope this is the last one. But nobody knows, God knows that deal, and we're fine with however. And, you know, people think, man, you're crazy. You've never settled down and made a home. Every place has been a home. She's made it a home, you know, and that's the blessing. Allison, you and Amanda being her, and her being bought into the whole deal. And the part of the story we want to tell later is a huge part of her, and how she's always had my back, and because she's a lot better hired than I ever was, right? So anywhere I ever went, I got hired, then she got hired. Well, she's got a specialist degree. She's pretty smart. You know, I got 13 brain cells and 7 of them are dead. But for her not to get hired just because of me, I mean, it's baffling. But anyway, now she's there, and that's part of our story too. But she's in a great spot, and God is good. That's all I can tell you.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, they are special creatures, these women that can endure all the stuff you hear from the stands, and the moving, and the untimeliness of it all, and, you know, having children and being a part of it too. And like Allison was alluding to, Amanda, managing those emotions and still trying to keep the family intact, and being the glue for it all. I marvel at you women and what you guys have endured. And you're right, you have to have a special purpose. It has to be your mission to want to and understand and expect to deal with all that adversity at times. And I think you guys are amazing at what you do, and you two are the two most special ones that I know. And that's why we wanted to have you on, because, you know, we went probably 10 plus years without seeing each other, and then we were venturing, and we didn't communicate ahead of time. It wasn't that we were just out of sorts or anything, but we went to that husband and wife clinic out there in Tennessee, and sure enough, there you guys are. And, you know, it was just so timely for us. Not that we were struggling in our marriage, but it was a great way for us to rekindle our spirits. And then to see you guys, it's just like we bubble up, because we just look so forward to going out there every year, not just for the clinic, but to see you
See
guys.
you guys.
Yeah, and we marvel at the relationship that you guys have had, and we like to hear y'all's stories and do that stuff too. So, but you would think the moves, for the most part, albeit were stressful, they were warranted, and they were beneficial in the long run.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Every time we moved, there was always something better. And it may not have been what we thought and what we had in our mind, but it was always revealed, this is why you moved. And it just built to our story and just confirmed that we just need to keep doing that, because he's going to take care of us, and he's going to, you know, help us out no matter what.
I mean, there's not enough time in the day to go through a whole story, but just God's plan and God's timing is perfect. And, you know, we want it to be, you know, our time and our whatever, and that's a whole nother deal. But I mean, it has been such a blessing. You know, we haven't always been where we thought was the right place, but like she said, just always worked out.
Yeah. Well, how about regrets? Can you think of any of those over the course of these 3 decades plus, 32 years? Or y'all been married for probably 27,
26, fixing to be 26.
26.
Yeah.
I see. Any
I mean,
regrets?
you know, you're never the perfect husband or father. So the first thing comes to mind is time spent. Right. I mean, her job now dictates her, you know, working a lot after school, and I'll say something to her and she'll say, you did this for 30 years. You can't stay home," you know, and she's right.
It's a good
I mean,
impression. I've seen her do that.
You like that?
The facial expression was right.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
You put some makeup on, some lipstick, but you know, I mean, you put in that time, and golly, I've been in a couple of places, Brian, and you know this, where you were expected to do a whole lot. And so just, you know, I've always heard this, your job starts when you get home. right? Because that's where your wife's at. That's where your kids are at. You know what I'm saying? So probably could have spent some more time, done some more things with as a family, you know. Now, did it all work out? Man, I got 3 unbelievable kids, and like you said, our marriage is rock solid and right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a big pause there.
Yeah, I pinched her at the same time. So, but yeah, you know, besides that, not a move. You know, obviously it'd be awesome to be closer to Virginia to see family, stuff like that. But regrets,
Yeah.
none.
Well, that's awesome.
How about you?
Well, yeah, I think we've alluded to that in our past episodes, just that time. You hate that you can't get it back, and then I get so caught up emotionally, and sometimes more than that, you get so caught up in trying to provide for everybody else's children that you forget about your own. And you don't always know about it because I was always quick to question, are you doing okay? And I made concerted efforts to make it work, but there's still so many things that we could have done better and certainly wanted to do better. So, but I don't know. You got any regrets, Al?
No,
Not a bit?
I don't think so.
See, I ain't sure about her saying that either. She just camera shy on that one because I think that part where she said I do part, I think that was a big old regret. She knew kind of what she was getting into because she was a trainer or a student
Yeah.
trainer in college. So that's how she knew you too, from back in your playing days before I was even there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she kind of knew the ins and outs of what the time constraints are. And some wives don't get that. And they see themselves in that secondary role instead of being a part of it. They just kind of see as I'm the outsider, I'm the wife. But I know you guys, I know she has, and I know you have, Amanda. Y'all have made a vested effort to be a part of it all, just so those kids, especially the ones that don't have the parent figures, they see what you're trying to provide, the solid foundation. This is what a husband and wife look like. And this
Right,
is what it's
right.
supposed to be. And you love them just like they're your own. And obviously when your kids play with them, they're like brothers. So they do feel like your kids. So you're right. The regret, I think, goes back to all those other things. But when you get down to it and you look back on it, would we have been able to provide our kids all these great opportunities and great relationships had we not been coaching? I don't think so. So I don't think there's a lot of regret beyond what you said, that 4-letter word, time, is the tough. Yeah, I know all those things that we've certainly gone through, and maybe the regrets that we might allude to at times, they certainly turn out not to be. But, you know, be specific about one of those moves that you want to talk about and how it, strengthened your faith, and talk to people how important your faith is to your guidance throughout, not just football and not just your job, but also your marriage.
Well, now this story is going to take a little bit, but I think I can answer every one of those questions in this story, Brian. So, you know, the old saying is you've coached long enough when you finally get fired, right? Well, I got fired, and it was warranted. So they had pulled me out and told me that, you know, I was on leave till they found out more. Anyway, a couple of days later, they brought me in and told me I was relieved of my duties. So this was in February of 2020. So for like 2 weeks, I'm calling everybody I know within 45 minutes to an hour of where we lived at the time, trying to find a job, and nobody would touch me. So luckily, 2 weeks goes by and COVID hits, right? I'm home by myself. Brian Allison, I think you know me good enough with my ADHD. I wouldn't have lasted good at the house by myself if I'd have been there for 3 months. So COVID hits, the boys come home, Amanda comes home, right? So we'll fast forward. Couldn't find a job, continued on the phone. Brian, you know how that works. I mean, I'm calling everybody I know. They're trying to call other people, and you know how the network, you know how that works, but nothing. And so Richie is, some viewers will know, he pretty much, my best friend got me into coaching in college when I was at Ferrum, and that's a whole different story. But he calls us in June, right? Make sure I get my dates right. At this time, we're in North Georgia, and he's in Toombs County, close to Vidalia, which is South Georgia. And he says, "Man, I got a spot for you." It's like, awesome, let's do it. So, well, let me talk about that part, because you talk about the marriage deal. Richie calls me and he says, "Matt, you got a couple days to pray about it. Make sure you want to come." I'm like, okay, we can make that happen. Me and Amanda get in the car and we're going down to city nearby to do something. And he calls me within an hour. He says, "You decided yet?" I said, "Come on now. An hour?" You said 2 or 3 days. So he's on speakerphone. And obviously we've worked with him before at a couple of places. Amanda's been with me both places. So I'm looking at her as he's on speakerphone, and I said, kind of mouth, "What are we going to do?" And she just says out loud, "I'm waiting for you to say yes." Well, Allison, at that time, Amanda has the best job she's ever had, the one she's really worked to really get, right? And I stole that from her, right? Getting fired. Stole a high school career for my 2 boys, because they're younger, they're freshmen and sophomores, right? So this is kind of part of the story. As a man, Brian, my pride is crushed, right? I killed my wife's career, my boys, knowing we're trying to stay in the same high school for at least, 4 years so they can graduate. You know how that rolls. And then for her to say, "Let's do it, let's go, I'm waiting on you." So we moved to Toombs County, and it was a blessing. So we get there, we join a church. So to answer the other part of your question, get there in July, join a church. We start a prayer Bible study, right? The way the preacher put it was that he wanted everybody to sit with different people, right? That we didn't know. Why? We didn't know anybody, so it didn't matter who we sat with. And we wanted us to start praying for some different people. So we start praying for this one couple that had a medical emergency, and praying for another person. And so at the same time, our coaching staff also did a prayer meeting on Monday mornings, and the AD was there, and the actual pastor from that church would come. We would pray for the kids, we'd pray for coaches and teachers, and anything that came up. And man, it's just a blessing to be a part of some of that stuff, just to gain that camaraderie with other men. And but anyway, so this particular prayer, my turn comes around, and I'm praying for this guy that's in need of this medical deal. And anyway, get done praying. It's a Monday morning. So I'm in PE, teaching PE. So a couple hours later, God says, "Matt, you're the one that's going to help him." Well, the guy's name is Curtis. Well, Curtis needs a kidney, right? So I use the word battle God. I don't think you can battle God. I was battling Matt, right? After being told that. So anyway, that happens on Monday. I don't tell Amanda, like, I'm still, "God, you sure this is a deal?" Right? So Wednesday, I go in and talk to the head coach, my buddy there, and tell him what happened. He's like, he wants to high five me. "Oh man, that's awesome," because he knows all about it. He's been praying too. And I'm like, "Whoa, big dog. I mean, what do you mean that's great?" I said, did you just hear what he's asking me to do? So then, "If you told Mandy yet?" Like, "No, I'm kind of waiting, see how this goes." But anyway, it was a tennis match. Our boys playing tennis. We're sitting on the back of the truck, and I tell her, and she's the same way, gives me a big old hug. "Oh my God, that's awesome. That's great." Wait a minute. What do you mean great? So I haven't even met Curtis yet. Don't know him, right? Know nothing about him. Go tell the pastor on Sunday. So the prayer meetings are on Sunday evenings. So he says, "Will you come in early tonight and I'll let you meet Curtis and his wife?" So we meet, and Brian and Allison, I'm telling you, when at that time, almost a week had passed, I knew that everything was going to work out, right? And I hadn't even met Curtis yet. I didn't even know my own blood type, right? So I meet Curtis. And can you imagine that conversation? So we're sitting at the table. Hi, my name's Matt, ugly mug in your face. Hey, and God's telling me to give you a kidney. Right. So he had been on the transplant list for like, I don't know, a couple of years. Right. And he was in line to get one, but he had COVID at the time and they wouldn't let him in to do that. So anyway, fast forward. Well, let me say this. The day I got fired was February 27th of 2020. The day I met Curtis, right? So hold on, let me make this all clear. I screw up my family's life, right? Take her job away, take away my boys' high school deal. On February 20th of 2021, I'm able to help a family. Exactly a year later. You know, how awesome is God? Now he's just showing off, right? So anyway, August 20th rolls around of that year, and we have our surgery. And Curtis has got an awesome, healthy kidney right now. So yeah, that's, you talk about moves, you talk about God, you talk about a wife that backs you. I mean, there it is in that story right there. So
That's a lot of faith there, especially when you hadn't met anybody and you're giving them something that, a part of yourself, and for all those people to openly and embrace you and say, great job. They obviously shared in your spirituality, and they shared in your faith as well. That's awesome. And I'm glad that man's doing well. And I don't know if we're as excited that he's still got a part of Matt Versluis, but I'm sure he's alive and kicking and happy about it. But no, I mean, that's so selfless. And it's not that I wouldn't expect it of you, because your personality was always that way. You were so given, and you as a coach and a mentor to me, you just wanted to do what was best for everybody. And you got such a big heart, and Manda, you do too. And y'all have to do what y'all do and deal with all the stuff that you have. But, I know that had to be a tough year, and knowing you're right, as a man, when you feel like you've let your family down, that there's no worse feeling in the world when you pride yourself so much on being the protector, being the giver, being everything, and your big heart, much as you want to help people. You're one of my role models for that, buddy. And I just want to make sure I say that publicly, because you've been awesome over your years. And I'm sorry you went through that year of torment, but I know God brought you out of it, and you were able to help Curtis, and his family are certainly appreciative, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, there's, as being a coach, we got all these quotes. There's no testimony without a test. You got to be tested in order to have those stories, and we don't want those tests, but when they come, they just make you stronger, right?
That's right. That's right. So what do y'all want your legacy to be? So if you're talking to these people right now, and I gave you a little brow on your expression there, Matt, but what is it that you guys would want your legacy as a husband and wife to be? As far as these people that are listening, what are some great, not necessarily anecdotes, you've given those, but what's some advice that you'd say, hey, to a starting couple in the coaching realm, in the high school setting at the very least, if not even college, because college is even more demanding.
But, without a doubt. Man, the first thing, Brian, that comes to mind, I was going to let you go first if you had anything, but
I would say the legacy is just to don't doubt yourself and what you can do when you put God first in the mission. Because I can remember starting out when we first got married. We were,
and by the way, that wasn't easy. That first 3 or 4 years.
Yes, it was rough, and that's what. So don't, you got to give yourself some grace that you're still trying to make the marriage work. But when we made that commitment in 2005 to the football field was going to be our mission field, that to realize that as a wife, you are a support and you are part of it. You're not something separate. You're not the after effect. And so that's what I hope my legacy is. Like, I hope my kids have seen, like, that I'm their supporter when he couldn't be there, but I'm also there, that I'm a role model for them of what kind of example a wife should be for a husband, no matter what career they go into, football or not. But, our middle son says he wants to be a coach. So, he's already working hard at it. So we hope been an example for not only him, but other coaches' wives. And we realized how small the coaching world is, at least in Georgia. You think it's big, but now we're realizing that, we know so many more people and have been connected from wherever we've been. So
I would say this, going back to the pride thing, I think men want to hold in some things, and I know you and Allison do this, is I will talk to her about any part of my day, a kid, a coach, an administrator, good, bad, or indifferent. She's not a helper. She's my 100%, she's all in too. Right. So for her to actually be all in, she has to know what I'm all into. Right. But my part would be this, Brian. One of my favorite verses is Proverbs 22:1. A great name is to be more desired than riches. Favor is better than silver or gold. So I think when Matt and Amanda's Versluis, when their name comes up on somebody's tongue, the first thought they would have is, man, there's some good people. And I think that's all anybody wants, right? I think I failed that at the place, obviously, where I got fired. So, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody, but God gives grace, God gives mercy. So I have no ill feelings towards that place. But anyway, to have a good name, and as a matter of fact, Brian, so just yesterday morning, a kid called me earlier this week, said, Coach, can we have breakfast? And he drove 2.5 hours to come eat breakfast with me just yesterday morning, and talked about how we did stuff in the weight room, things we talked about being a man. And, that I hope he knows that meant a lot to me. I think I told him that. But man, when you get those letters, you get kids come up, give you that big old hug and say, Coach, thank you. That's huge.
Yeah.
It takes them sometimes a long time to process those messages we give them.
Well, he isn't right out of high school. He's about 25. So yeah.
Yeah, but they do eventually come back to it. And mostly because as hard as we're on them many times, they recognize that any success that they have in life is because they have to be hard on themselves. They have to persevere. They have to overcome some obstacles. And sometimes the hardest physical, hurdles that they're ever going to deal with come from us and football and everything that we provide them. But there is a brotherhood, and there's a fatherhood that comes from it, and there's a motherhood that comes from it too. And you guys are the best. You guys are. And I wanted to make sure we had you on. And Allison, when we were talking about doing this a long time ago, we said, we got to have a fellow coach on it. Y'all were the first ones that came up. Mostly, again, I think it goes back to that clinic, because not that we didn't have a great time when we started our career. It's just being able to look forward to seeing good people. And you're going to see them, and then you get to share your experiences, have a good old time, and just
Reminisce about young, dumb coaches.
Oh yeah. But it was a blessing. Y'all are a blessing too. And God, thank you for allowing us to be on here.
Oh,
Just to be able to talk about it and see y'all and understand that you're in this and doing what you're doing now for coaches, right? And wives. So you're being a blessing.
Well, it's underserved, and you guys know that when we went out there, there are just so many coaches and their wives that feel like they're going through this alone. And the stories that you've shared are very similar, minus, giving up an organ. But, there's stories that are shared across the whole country. And if we just knew that we weren't going through these alone and with faith, it would certainly make going through it a lot less problematic and give us some hope in the future. And I think that's what we want our legacy to be, is that, we've learned a lot. And yes, I'm young and dumb, and I'm still old and dumb for sure, but I've learned a lot of lessons, and I'd like to be able to be a part of it so that we can share this with some other couples and say, yes, like Amanda said, you can do this. it ain't gonna be hard forever, but it's worth it. It absolutely is. So,
Mhm.
well, we love you guys, man, and we're really, really proud of y'all, and we're proud to call you our friends, and we look forward to again seeing y'all real soon. I know we were able to eat lunch with you a couple years ago, and y'all came up to the beach. So hopefully we can get this clinic rolling, and we can make this an annual deal, and it can be the Versluis section. Go ahead and teaching everybody over there on the other side of the room how to do this stuff.
That'll be where the circus is at.
I'll bring the circus. Y'all just go and have fun with the rings. So, well, thank y'all so much for being on. We do love you and we appreciate you. And if y'all ever need anything, you know where to find us. So
Appreciate y'all, man. Thank you. Love y'all.
hey guys, this is
Our life in front of the bleachers.
Take Care.